Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. Welcome back to a Division 2 video. And today I'm going over my top 3 builds for the new game mode Retaliation. Yes, I got a lot of questions how to survive, what type of builds I like to use, and how do we fly through the Retaliation like we do. We've been playing this every single day live on stream with the community, testing out a bunch of builds, listening to the community what they want, but overall it's still towards my preferred playstyle. I think most of y'all will enjoy these builds. I have a build that gives you a little bit more survivability, straight up damage in the face, and some extra damages over time, so you have more than enough choices about it. I will fly over the builds itself, show you some gameplays. So let's start with my third favorite build for the Retaliation game mode, and this build will be utilizing the Pestilence. Yes, sir. We are using the Pestilence with just a straight up LMG build just to do damage, shred through enemies, but also that beautiful tick then jumps over. No, I did not go into glass cannon. Yes, you could go into glass cannon to do even more damages, but I chose a little bit more for quality of life on this build, but this build is so incredible. You can still do 1.4 million ticks, and no, this is not maxed out on his expertise. And again, there are a few changes you can do to do even more damage, but we chose to go for a little bit more quality of life, and this is the full setup. Specialization, we're going for the gunner. Of course, that third reload faster, but also that 10% armor on kill. Whenever you take somebody out, or even that tick of the Pestilence takes somebody out, you will get that 10% armor back. So hovering over the Pestilence, this is the Pestilence. Always go for critical hit chance as the third attribute on there. Except if you want to go for a triple tick build. But for now, every single LMG you want to have critical hit chance as the attribute on there, and every other gun damage you target out of cover. So whilst the Pestilence so good, the Plague of the Outcasts. Hits apply a debuff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds, and this stacks up 50 times. Whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. So the moment that you still see that little Plague of the Outcast mark above their head and they die in game, it will jump over. But the moment that duration is gone, it won't jump over again, and it's a 25 meter track, and it does a lot of damage. And that's why this is so incredibly good. We're fighting a lot of people within the Retaliation. So now you can just focus on one guy, one biggie, build up the complete stacks. And when he dies, the damage can just jump over and you can focus on whatever enemy you like and just take out multiple at the same time. For your secondary and your pistol, just use whatever you want to use. I will prefer to do something that you do not have proficient yet, because that will save you, of course, in materials and or duplicates. Let's jump over to the build. We're using 3 pieces of Lankmo. We're using the Backbone backpack. This is, of course, the named one that comes with perfectly unstoppable force. Killing an enemy increases total weapon damage by 7% for 15 seconds and stacks up 5 times, and grenade kills add 2 stacks. Not really doing the grenade kills that much, but unstoppable force. This Langmo Backbone backpack is very good on this build. Everything toward crit chances and crit damages. I would love to have seen that on my chest piece as well, but this is a little bit harder to find, as we need to find it with the right talent, with the right attributes, so you can roll that armor core away for weapon damage. Yes, glass cannon will do the more damage for you, but because you get hit from so many angles in Retaliation, I prefer to go to obliterate, and as you saw in the gameplay, we can still do 1.4 million on the ticks. Again, work towards crit chance, crit damages. If you can't find that, then weapon handling comes in clutch as well, especially for an LMG. Then for the third piece, we went for crit chance, crit damage. Again, this will activate the 30% extra LMG damage, what we are doing it for. Then we go over the knee pads. We went over for Fox's prayers, rolled critical hit chance on there, damage to target out of cover, of course on there, as the rifle damage doesn't really help us out. And then we made a different choice in going for the Eagle's Grasp from Zwiadoka. Yes, you can go for the Contractor's Gloves. Yes, that will give you 10% more LMG damage and damage to armor, but this will give us a little extra magazine size and most importantly, the weapon handling. The weapon handling is a little bit more important in my opinion. Yes, we can do damage, but the moment that you cannot hit your shots, the damage is not there. So for LMGs, we kinda went into a little bit more of quality of life, like I already explained at the start as well. And to finish it off, you can use the Coyote's Mask. This is one of the best to use, especially on this build, as this will give us our critical hit chances and or damages depending on how far we hit that enemy on range. And that's pretty much the whole overview of the build. We can go over the stats real quick. We got 49.5% crit chance. Because we're running around with that Coyote, it will most of the time give us that extra 10%. So we are almost always around that 60 cap. 129 critical hit damage, and the rest doesn't really matter because we didn't really go into any other survivabilities. And again, this is a great build, just straight up shredding through people while that tick of the plague of the outcast jumps over and helps you take out the rest. Great build. Test it out. Let me know in the comments down below. And then we go over to my second favorite build, and this is already a build that I showcased a little bit, as this will be the tech tank. This is the build if you have a little bit more problem in surviving, you want that extra survivability, but still can do those 1 millions on the body crit shots, then this is the build for you. If you struggle a little bit by taking people out, or of course surviving, this will come in clutch and will help you out a lot. Most of us already know about this build, and you can just make yourself unkillable if you do it the right way. The combination of the shield health, of course with those extra skills, pulsing people, getting that extra bonus armor up while getting that extra weapon damage in comes in clutch. You can survive a lot, but you can also beam down a lot. And this was a very close call in being number 1 or number 2, but I had to push it on number 2 because the other build is just straight godlike. But let's jump over, and this is the whole overview of the build. For our specialization, we are using a technician specialization. Why? Because this will give us extra skill tier, this will give us the linked laser pointer, and this will give us the artificer hive. So yes, we are utilizing 3 of the specialties from this technician specialization. And next to that, for our weapons, we are using the Lexington, of course, damage to target out of cover on there, and we're utilizing Flatline, amplifies weapon damage by 15% to pulsed enemies. After 4 kills, applies a pulse to the next enemy you hit. But because we're running around with that linked laser pointer on our lung, on the barrel rail, we don't really need that extra pulse after we took out 4 people. I went for 2 times critical hit chance, and of course the extra 20 rounds minus a 10% reload speed. If you do not have the Lexington, look for a weapon, an AR that will have a lung on the barrel rail. I would recommend you to go for the P416, the M4, or especially this season, because we have a little bit higher in the RPMs, the Carbine 7. Secondary will be the rock and roll. This is a shotgun and it's the best gun to stack. And that's why I chose to go for rate of fire in the attributes. This is a named ACS-12, so this comes with the named perfectly extra, giving us some extra magazine size, so we always know that we are at max stacks when we clear that magazine. For your pistol, you can use whatever you like. You could use a TDI card, comes with an extra skill tier. So whenever you go down or whenever you want a little bit more extra skill tiers, you can switch over to it. But overall, I will just choose something that you don't have proficient yet. Then the overview of the build. Of course, we got 4 pieces of Heartbreaker for you. 2 pieces will go to weapon damage, so make sure to find that with critical hit chance or critical hit damage already on there. Same as for the chest piece, and the chest piece and the backpack can't really change. And why? Because the Heartbreaker chest piece will bring our Heartstopper from 50 to 100. What will give us the opportunity to get 100% bonus armor and 110% weapon damage. If we look to the left, you can see we're already running around with 1.3 million armor. So behind your shield, stacking it up, you will have 2.6 million armor while your shield still protects you. When the shield breaks, that 2.6 million armor will be there, so you have so much survivability next to, of course, that extra 110% weapon damage to, of course, pulsed enemies when we are at full stacks. Then for the gloves and the knee pads, you can go for armor on there. Again, go for critical hit chance and critical hit damages. And then the normal piece of gear, I chose to go for Cheska. Cheska, again, for that critical hit chance, critical hit damage attributes on there. You could also go for the thermal if you want to put it on the knee pads, but that's all up to you. And then the backpack that makes this build, it's gonna be the Memento backpack. Why the Memento backpack? This comes with the 3 cores, weapon damage, armor, and skill tier. We went for a critical hit chance mod on there, and then we went for kill confirmed. We are doing this for the last part of the talent, giving us that 30% weapon damage, 30% skill efficiency, and 3% arm regeneration. But picking up those trophies will help you in the short term as well, especially within those 10 seconds. Pick up some trophies and you will gain that extra bonus armor and that extra weapon damage depending on how you set up your build. So if we go back and we look at, for example, the armor, we got 3 armor pieces with that memento. If we go back into the memento, if we pick up one of the trophies, we will gain an extra 30% bonus armor for 10 seconds, making us even more powerful. So yes, pick up the trophies as fast as you can to boost your passive talent for those extra 30% weapon damage, 30% skill efficiency, and 3% arm regeneration. But if a whole group comes out, you take one out, and there is a biggie in front of you, you could pick up that strong arm real quick. You will get your extra bonus armor, you will get your extra weapon damage, you can beam down that threat faster than usual. So make sure to play around with those strong arms as well. Then, of course, we went for the shield. This will give us a 4.7 million health as we are on tier 6 because we're holding our pistol. So let me switch back real quick and let's see if we can now unequip our pistol. We cannot. Hold on. Are we now on our pistol? No, we're not on our pistol. Let's freaking go. We got there. Tier 5. So this will still give us a 4.1 million HP on our shield. Wow. If at max stacks and with that extra bonus armor, that 2.6 million for yourself. So in the perfect world, we're close to 7 million HP in combination with our shield and our character and build itself. And that's why this tech tank is so incredibly good. You can hide behind your shield, build up your damages, build up your survivability with that extra bonus armor. When, or better said, if your shield breaks, you have all the survivability still to beam them down with that extra bonus armor. I went for the double shield health and an extra holstered regeneration. And then for the hive, the second skill, we went for the artificer hive. This will boost our shield and other skills. As you can see, we're getting charges. and this will give us some extra health. This will give us some extra refreshes for the shield, making sure that we can almost always keep that shield in front of us, won't die, and still gets that extra survivability in for us. I went from some stim efficiency, 1 extra range, and 1 extra duration. When we jump over to the stats real quick, what you want to hunt down for is 58% crit chance and 93% crit damage. So everything in crit chance to 58, the rest into crit damage. And that's pretty much it for this build. So let's jump over to my favorite and, in my humble opinion, the best build to utilize within the new game mode Retaliation. And most of you would already know, yes, that is going to be my OD build in combination with the Tinkerer. This build is so much fun to play with, and the damage is so incredibly free. We're not stacking, we only have to apply a status effect once, and after that you almost never lose your bleed bullets. Instantly that millions of crits, and don't have to worry about losing it, because every time that you take somebody out, you will get those amplification bullets back, and we get up to that 95% amplification damage on status affected enemies. And of course, shredding through everything, having that huge ass LMG in our hand, at least that 100 mag, or depending how you want to fill it in, because we can also go for a 150 and shred through everything. I personally chose to go for a little bit more of RPMs, and talking about RPMs, of course, that season will come in clutch as well. But let's cover the build first. Yes, we're going for the specialization, the gunner, extra reload speed, extra pouch if you need it, and you can use the Banshee pulse if you wanted to. And then we are using the double LMG setup because we're running around with the Tinkerer. First one, my preferred LMG, military MK46. Critical hit chance as an attribute on there, and then we went for Sadist. Amplify weapon damage by 30% to bleeding enemies. After 4 kills, applies a bleed to the next enemy you hit. And then, next to that, the mods are very important as well, as we only chose to go for 1 extra critical hit chance mod on there. So, like I mentioned at the start as well, most of these builds are a little bit more towards the quality of life. Because yes, if you remove that stability on the mods, we can add an extra critical hit chance to that. That will give us the opportunity to add more critical hit damage. So yes, the build can hit harder, but believe me, go for the double stability mods on your gun. The 40% stability minus the 10% optimal range on the muzzle, and the extra 30% stability on the red dot side. And this will turn this gun into a straight up laser beam, and definitely try it out. Yes, we will hit a little lower, but it is so much more fun to beam people down from any freaking distance with this insane amount of amplification damage as well. Secondary weapon, we chose to go for the M249B. You don't really have to do anything for it. The only thing that I would recommend you to roll on there is the talent Pressure Point. Amplifies damage by 15% to enemies under a status effect. And yes, there are talents out there that work better for you. Killer will give you more damage. There are a bunch of others that will give us more damage, but because the build is already so incredibly free in its damage, we wanted to stay at that. So whenever we get our bleed bullets, that's all the time. Whenever we apply a status effect, that's all the time, because we be shooting bleed bullets all the time. We will have Pressure Point always active, and that's why we chose to go for it. Pressure Point for that 15, and then of course that Sadist for that 30. So only our weapons already give us an extra 45% amplification damage to bleeding enemies. Pistol, again, choose whatever you want to go for. I would recommend something that you don't have proficient yet, as that of course will save you a lot of materials and or duplicates. Then we have the 4 pieces of ongoing directive. You all want to place it over here, especially that chest piece, because this will give us that extra 50% amplification damage, getting us to that 95 of total amplification damage to bleeding enemies. And of course, this will give us that bleeding enemies, as this is ongoing directive. 15% status effect, extra reload speed, and then we're doing it for the 4-piece rules of engagement. Shooting a status affected enemy will apply a mark. Killing a marked enemy grants you a full clip of hollow point ammo for your active weapon, and half of the clip's agent's active weapon to the rest of your party. So yes, not only you receive a full clip of hollow point ammo, but also half of your clip will go to your teammates, and they will have that extra amplification of 20% to bleeding enemies. Because they got those bleed bullets in their magazine, they will always get that extra 20% amplification. The chest piece talent only works for us. So our teammates, as it reads, are not boosted by this. This bonus does not apply to party members, but then still our party members getting an extra 20% amplification damage for free. And we are, of course, getting that extra 30 for it. You want to go for critical hit damages on almost everything if you can. Critical hit damage on the holster, critical hit damage on the knee pads, and then you probably already guessed it, critical hit damage on the gloves. I went for the backpack of Cheska. Why Cheska? Extra critical hit chance. Again, critical hit chance, critical hit damage, mods and or attributes on there. And then I went for the talent Wicked. Applying a status effect increased total weapon damage by 18% for 20 seconds. And yes, again, there are better talents out there. Vigilance will give you that 25% weapon damage. So that will definitely do more damage for you. But like I already explained earlier with Pressure Point, this is so incredibly free. So I rather always have that 18% weapon damage active and losing that 7% versus Vigilance, then Vigilance deactivating whenever I get hit. You know, especially in the Retaliation game mode, they will have your number. It is not that they're focusing on something else. You are the only one they're focusing on if you're playing this solo. So you're gonna lose that Vigilance quite a lot. And then it's so much better to just have an easy and quick and pretty free talent on the backpack like Wicked. And then of course for our last piece, that will be the Tinkerer Mask. Why the Tinkerer Mask? This will activate both of our talents, like I explained when we were showcasing those LMGs. This comes with the talent Abridged. If your primary and secondary weapons are not exotic or named, and of the same type, the secondary weapons talent will also be applied to the primary weapon. So it cannot be an exotic, it cannot be a named enemy, and it needs to be the same weapon type. So that's why we're running around with 2 LMGs, activating that extra talent with Pressure Point, giving us that extra amplification damage. And that's what the Tinkerer does for us. And I feel like if we look at this build again, this whole overview, the Tinkerer gave the most damage to the OD build. I think that the rifle builds and the OD build is the one that has the most benefit of the Tinkerer, of course, in my humble opinion. Going over the skills real quick, I went for Revive Hive. You can go for some extra stim efficiency, range and health. That stim efficiency should be some extra armor coming back. I don't know why that didn't change around. And then I love to use the chem launcher with the riot foam to at least start that first kill. You walk up to a group, you foam them, you beam them down. or at least beam one of them down. That will instantly give you those bleed bullets, and the rest is easy claps. But you can use whatever you like. Because we're running already around with the gunner specialization, you can, of course, also go for the Banshee pulse that is connected to this gunner specialization. A lot of people like it as well. As long as a skill that you like to use applies a status effect, you can use it on this build. Of course, apply that status effect, then take them out with your weapon. The bleed bullets will kick in, the full amplification damage of the whole build will kick in, and you can just shred through everyone. And that's pretty much it. These are my 3 top builds to use within the Retaliation. And then a few tips for you as well, especially around the season. You can utilize whatever you like. The beautiful thing also is if you fully reset your map, you will still gain an extra rate of fire bonus of 16%. So even if you resetted everything, even if everything got taken over again, you will still gain that base boost of 16% rate of fire. So even if you don't really like the global modifiers, you don't really want to play with it, then I would still activate it for that extra rate of fire, as the hostiles don't really have that annoying modifiers this season, or at least not in my opinion. And then you can of course look into the active and the passives as well. I had the active modifier deactivated, or if I had it active in one of my play sessions, then I did not use it because I wanted to showcase what these builds could do without gaining extra damage from that active modifier. I had the passive modifiers on, and you can choose for whatever you like. The only one that I would recommend for everyone to put on their build is the Rupert Steer. When you break any piece of a tank's armor, all the other armor pieces are broken. When this happens, you apply bleeding to enemies within 15 meters of the target. So next to, of course, that bleeding will help us out a little bit on the OD build, it also just breaks all their armor and you just strip them down. And they are so easy to take down then. So whenever you see a tank and you have Rupert Steer active, just focus on one piece of his armor. When you break that one piece of his armor, he will completely strip naked. You can take him out very, very easy. The rest is more of what you're fighting, so the rest is more up to you. But I would always recommend to have Rupert Steer on one of your passive modifiers. The rest you can just fill in whatever you like, or whomever you're fighting to, because that is the biggest thing. It's now universal versus our enemy archetypes in the game and versus the factions, because we're fighting the factions a lot, because within the pact and next season we will see the factions trying to work together to take us, the division, out. And the factions of course are a little bit more connected to the new Retaliation game mode as well. So whenever you're fighting a certain faction, you can always change it around, or whenever you're fighting a certain Retaliation, you can always change it around to the faction that you're fighting. But overall, the Rupert Steer is the only one that you definitely want on there. And that's pretty much it. A little longer video, I know, but I wanted to break down the top 3 builds, in my humble opinion, to use on this beautiful, beautiful new open world game mode. If you want some more information about the game mode, you want some tips and tricks, I have a perfect video for you right here. But that's pretty much it for me, man. I'm not gonna keep you any longer. This video already takes a little bit longer than I thought it would be, but hey, we're here to share the love, we're here to share the builds, and we're here to share the opportunity for you to defeat that Retaliation yourself as well. If you're on PlayStation or on PC, jump over to twitch.tv/IamPurePrime. We would love to help you out if you need some help. And of course, kick back, relax, and get your drops this week as well. Thank you for sticking until the end. Like the video if you liked the video or helped you out in any way or form. And of course, if you're new here and or you want to be updated by the Division 2, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. And I will see you in the next one. Pure Prime out.